possibility that this negative residue can be removed by a positive thought. So it's not static, it's constantly changing. Positive things we have done get removed by anger. Anger removes some negative. But then also love and compassion we generate, they remove some of the negative actions. So there's a constant change. Like we constantly, basically, potentially change our future. If we do a very powerful positive action, we may actually purify a very negative karma. We had possibly the potential to be violently killed, but because of that positive action we've done, now that's gone. We don't experience that. Okay? So there's this constant, but we've done so many actions in the past, and sometimes, although we're really kind, we lived our entire life as a really kind person, something horrific happens to us. It can also happen. We've been wonderful for many lifetimes, but there's this one action that is still there, this kind of residue is there. We've not been able to purify it through something powerfully positive, and then we experience it, and then it's gone, right? And then something else happens. So it's very fluid. It's constantly changing. It's just part of our mind. It's not something separate. It's not like a credit card. It's not like seeds on our mind. These are just examples that maybe help us to understand them, but they're really of one nature with the mind. Okay? But what also helps to understand is that there's no objective reality. Everything we experience is totally subjective. What is reality? There's my reality and there's your reality. There's mine and there's yours. And again, I said this on many occasions, but not here yet. Actually, modern physics totally supports that. The fact that, and I mentioned that yesterday, that sounds, etc., they don't exist the way they appear. They're just causes and conditions coming together, and so therefore light waves are experienced as color. Pressure waves are experienced as sounds. But what I haven't said yet is that not only does that take place, but I don't know whether the blue that you perceive is not what is actually what you would call green. You call it blue, I call it blue, but when you see blue, I actually see what you see when you see green. When you say you see green, we may actually see it totally differently. I don't know whether your yellow is not my blue. How can we compare it? We both call it yellow, or we both call it blue for that matter. So, therefore, and on top of that, we all individually, we say we have similar experiences, but the only similarity, like let's take today. While you are in this room, you have a similar experience. But the moment you leave, you live in different places, you have different cars, you have different partners, you have different children. Your life is very unique from everyone else's. And even while you're sitting here, you have different thoughts, right? Sometimes you're thinking about dinner. And things that I say, someone else hears them, but you don't hear them. I know because I have that experience. I don't always pay attention. So, therefore, you take in different things. You remember different things. You sit in a different spot. You see me from a different perspective. What you hear could be slightly different. What sticks is different. It's unique. So that is your reality. And then there's everyone else's. So we all have a unique, subjective reality. And what else is there other than what we perceive? We like to think there's this objective world out there. Well, if there is, I only experience my subjective world, my subjective colors, my subjective sounds, my subjective experiences in terms of heat and cold, right? Everything is totally subjective. And based on that, then, my experiences are based on my actions. If I have negative thoughts, they return to me in the form of the experience of suffering. Right? And the other person, let's say you love sunshine. I don't like sunshine that much. I prefer rain. Ooh, weird, right? So when you have sunshine, the whole summer in Germany there was no rain, it was only sun. Ugh, we've gone crazy every day, just the sun. I wouldn't have liked it. So my experience of something that you would see, oh, beautiful, wonderful. Like so many people said, oh, what a wonderful summer. I was happy in Dharamsala. I had 3 months of rain. I was very happy. There you go. So it's an experience which seems to be objective, but actually what I experienced was something blissful, and everyone else, most people I knew, left during the monsoon. Maybe went to Israel to be the summer in Israel, or to go to Europe where it didn't rain the whole time, right? So you see, in the end, it's totally subjective. My actions are my own actions. I engage in certain actions. Of course, due to the interaction with other people, we do connect to other people and they influence us. But in the end, it's my mind that has certain thoughts, and those thoughts lead to certain actions of body and speech. And they, as a law of nature, what goes around comes around. You plant a rice seed, you get a rice sprout. You get a rice seedling. You don't get an apple seedling, right? So you plant a barley seed, you get a barley seedling. You don't get a pear seedling. It's just this. So that's just one of the laws. There are many laws of cause and effect. There's the law of cause and effect with regard to seeds and sprouts. There's the law of cause and effect with regard to gravity. It's a kind of a law of cause and effect. How all the causal conditions have that effect. Karma is one type of a law of cause and effect. Volitional actions result in certain experiences. If I give out happiness, I experience happiness. If I give out suffering, but suffering as in like my motivation. My motivation is to create suffering for a person. I want someone to suffer. Then that's the result I get. I want someone to be happy. Without any condition, possibly that would be the best. But even with conditions attached, still I experience a degree of happiness. It's just the law of nature. Right? No punishment. If there were punishment, then the person who punishes me, well, they could be asleep and I get away with it. Oh, they kind of missed out on that part. Or, okay, not asleep, but they kind of like decide, oh, I'll make an exception today. Right? 3 strikes or whatever. Or like 3rd strike, then you really get it. But the first 2, I'll be a little bit more lenient. No. That'd be like saying, oh, gravity. Today I dropped this, and because I haven't dropped anything in 5 weeks, oh, I won't break. But then if you're not careful, the next time you break it, then you put that. No. Right? That's not how it works. So it's important to understand our mind. It's just a law of cause and effect that our mind acts. Like our mind is affected by. It's everything. It's all the things around us that we can see, etc. Even our mind. So the experiences are the result of our actions. Simple as that. But that's great. Because if someone punished us, there's not much power we have over this. But this is where all our freedom lies, because I can create my own future. Right? I'm responsible to what's going to happen to me in the future. How wonderful. Right? I want to be happy. I practice love and compassion. It's as easy as that. I want to be miserable. I work on my anger. It's something I have a certain degree of freedom on that. Okay? All right. So hopefully this describes, so some of the questions I want to address most specifically your personal doubts, and I hope I've addressed some of them with what I just said, and also open it to questions to have, because we don't have that much time left. And I want to finish with a meditation, but I want to finish with a meditation on love, etc. So after all that selfless and such, so to walk away, and of course there's the wisdom aspect, which we've dealt with more, but there's the method aspect of love, compassion, etc. So to finish off with this, but in the meantime, give you the opportunity to ask questions. Oops, that was really quick. All right, go ahead.
I think this description was very simplistic.
Yes.
Because if you describe the karma in such a way, so how can you explain? I mean, I know how you explain, but this explanation doesn't fit with this description. That there are so many people which didn't do anything harmful in this life, and still they suffer, they are hungry, they are persecuted.
Yes.
So many of them.
Yes.
So all of them had previous lives, which now they are paying the price. So this is a little...
Yes, I agree with you. Karma is actually not simple. I mean, if I say a seed arises from a sprout arises from a seed, it sounds very simple. much more complicated than that. Think of all the different aspects of a seed, and this warmth, and then this wind comes in. Like how very many causes and conditions act together and to have a certain result. It's very complicated. But karma doesn't need to be understood in all these details, because it's just going to give us a headache. If you understand, the only thing you need to understand that positive actions lead to positive result, negative ones in general. But I agree with her. Without past and future lives, I'm a little hesitant to speak more about past and future life. But actually, leaving out past and future lives in Buddhism is like making hummus without chickpeas. Right? Seriously, it's like hummus without, not even without trina, without chickpeas. It's incomplete. And the fact that over many, like not just that we lived before once or twice, over many lifetimes. So maybe 1 million lifetimes ago, I did something because I lived in a tribe, I lived somewhere, I don't know where, in a different universe, because it's not just this world. Just this world is to, no, the Buddha talked about galaxies and different solar systems. Even before scientists mention it, it's in the scriptures. There's all these different galaxies, there's even different universes the Buddha describes. So definitely, are there aliens? Yes. Well, from our perspective, they're aliens, we're aliens for them. So there are these different worlds, and we may have lived in a different world, and like 1 million years ago, we did this, and it left a residue in our mind that somehow has not been purified through a positive action. And then we've been amazing for many lifetimes, many lifetimes. And there's nothing negative, well actually it says that there's any kind of negativity we've done in the past. And many of them we have purified, we've experienced, but some are still left. So you have someone who for thousands of lifetimes has been this most virtuous person, and then something horrible happens to them. Possible. So they're good people. They're wonderful people, they're wonderful, but they just have that cause that is still there, that now ripens. That accounts for why things happen to people who actually in this lifetime do wonderful things, and why things like horrible people can still win the lottery. Right? People who do a lot of negativity are really cruel, but they may still, but in general, there is a difference. Because those people who are kind and wonderful, they are also happier and more content. And they can deal even with the disaster much more skillfully than a person who something negative, positive happens to, can deal with something, although they're cruel. They may not utilize it in that way. And of course, any horrible thing, it's impermanent. It'll happen, and then the karma is now gone, and they continue on. And if they die, they'll be reborn, and this karma is gone, and they continue. So in that way, I agree. She's right. It was too simple to say, just do good things, and good things happen to you. Not necessarily in this lifetime. But if I experience it in the future, if there's future lives, well, then there's no reason. I mean, if I experience it, who cares? I experience it tomorrow or I experience it in 70 years. I still want to experience that way. That's why we have a pension fund. Right? We pay into a pension fund because we have a sense, oh yeah, I care about the future. I care when I'm 70, even though if you're like 18, 20, that's like the last thing you think about. I mean, I remember when I was 18, I was in the kibbutz, there was a girl who was 24. I thought she was so old. 24 was so old. And so, therefore, last thing in my mind was my being in the 70 or 80-year-old person, but if I had started working, I would have started paying into my pension fund, because I do kind of care. It seems like it's never going to happen, but I believe it is, so I do prepare. So likewise, with the same idea, well, now I'm thinking back when I was 18, how did that happen? How did I get from 18 to now? How did it happen? Right? It's like whether I'm 25 or whether I'm, 48 or whatever. So in any case, the point is that still, it's just a memory. What's happened is gone. Now I'm here where I am right now, and it doesn't matter So the point is, at some point I will die, and whatever happened, it doesn't matter, but I'll go on. And what I take with me, that's what's important. Does that make sense? Right?
What self will go on? If we don't have a self or I, so what I will experience in the future life?
Well, I never said that the I doesn't exist. We label I either on the basis of the mind or on the basis of the body. The mind goes on. The mind goes on. But the mind that is active right now is a coarser type of mind. Then when you die, the coarser mind becomes subtler. And the subtler type of awareness becomes manifest, and then that continues on to the next life. So the I, it's like in each moment, there's a different basis on which you label I. In each moment, there's a different basis. So there's still a basis of imputation because there's a subtle mind that goes on. Okay? So there's something that goes on. All right. Yes?
Talk a lot about the relativity of things and somehow happiness, we talk about it differently.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a real thing called happiness, and it's lasting.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I would practice, I would be happy. And not even that, you said we have like we have to be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most people I know will take that as a burden.
Mm-hmm.
Because I came back from the course yesterday and I wasn't happy.
Okay.
And I think when I was expecting to be happy after spending a day in the course, that's like just a way to disappoint myself. So the whole notion of us having to be happy, or what's happiness? Like, am I happy? Is you're happy? And if that is so, why in the monastery that you keep on saying is very much like our life? Why aren't you all very happy?
Okay. All right. That's a good point. All right. So, first of all, with regard to what is it we always want? What drives all our actions? To be happy. Let's be honest. That's really why we do the things we do. That is one underlying kind of drive that drives everything. That's what we all have in common. We want to be happy, we don't want to suffer. And that's why the Buddha taught in the first place, because everyone deserves to be happy. Don't misunderstand karma. Karma doesn't mean a person deserves to suffer because they accumulated the causes to do so. We accumulate actions not knowing they bring us suffering, that in the end we suffer more than anyone else. So we don't feel, or no one feels, or the Buddha doesn't feel that anyone deserves to suffer. But it's because of our misperception that we do. Now, with regard to your actual question, does these methods we prescribe here, do they bring immediate happiness? No, unfortunately, it takes time. It takes time. But then again, what is happiness? Of course, a very good point. What do we mean with happiness? Well, it's basically the absence of what we don't want. Right? What we don't want. The state of happiness is actually that right now we experience fear, we experience self-doubt. What else do you experience? I mean, help me here. Stress. Anxiety. Depression. Jealousy. So the absence of all those, the idea really behind this is that our mind is actually pure. The mind is actually free in terms of, the mind is like water. You know, our mind is water. It's like water. It is clear. It has the ability to know. It has the ability to be loving and kind, etc. So it has that pure nature. That's the actual nature of the mind. But temporarily, there are these misapprehensions. We have these misapprehensions. I'm saying temporarily because just as muddy water, we can remove the mud from the water and then have the clear water. So you don't need to remove the mind to experience happiness. And that state of happiness is just a sense of satisfaction, which sometimes we experience. We have little moments of like, oh, everything's fine. Contentment. Contentment is a better word, actually. Here, happiness, it's like a sense of contentment. Okay, we have moments of those. Now to tell you something about Buddhist practice, which is really important. some Swedish psychologists, I believe, they have found that most beings, there is a certain sense of like happiness, a certain degree of satisfaction. We all have a certain degree. And then every now and then it goes down. We feel really miserable, but we come up from it, no matter what happens. So something horrible happens, for a day or two you're miserable, and you go back to that state. And then it goes up, you feel really elated, and it goes back to that state. Does that sound familiar? Look at your own life, right? So it's like there's a certain degree of constant kind of well-being, and then whoop, down again. You know, however great, you win the lottery, sorry, it'll come down. You win it again, it'll come down. Okay. Then, of course, you know, something horrible, you lose your job, but you catch yourself again, and you go again back to this degree. Now, they have found that when you engage in spiritual practice, such as Buddhist practice, for instance, as an example, where you remove whatever is in the way towards, like, remove anger, remove self-cherishing, remove those a little bit, which are in the way to feel this degree of satisfaction, that general sense goes up, right? So instead of, like, kind of being okay, there's more of a sense of contentment, more of a sense of well-being. You're just calmer within, more happy, more satisfied. You're more resilient to things. So still there be ups and still there be downs, but you get back to this balanced state quicker. You're not caught in that for so long. So there's a degree actually, so this is the good news. When you do this long enough, 1 retreat not enough, 10 retreats not enough, and retreats themselves not enough. You need to bring this into your own life, to be honest to yourself. Am I really practicing, or am I just going through the notions? Am I really, like, honestly is the most important part. So looking at your own life, what do I need to work on? And instead of replacing your anger towards others and now become angry with yourself, because now you see the fault in yourself, that's not a solution. Anger needs to be removed also with regard to yourself. So become more accepting. I am who I am. There's room for improvement, but for now it's okay to learn to really love and accept yourself. And then so it's like it's a very slow process. Slow in the sense that after a week, maybe it's worse. Sometimes it gets worse. Sometimes when you start practicing, it's like homeopathic medicine. Your symptoms get worse for a while. Yeah? So sometimes your self-cherishing may get stronger for a while, right? It's like you're trying to look at the self and it goes a little, but that's just part of the process. And if you look back after a week, no change. After a month, give it 5 years. If you look back, okay, I mean, sorry, it's slow. We live in the world of fast food and supersonic planes, but the one thing that you cannot fasten is the change of mind. It's just because of the other types of mind that hold us back from changing. So it's a slow process. But if it's worthwhile that after 5 years I feel better and there's nothing else I can do, well, I'm going to choose that one. Better than nothing. But give it time. And from my own experience, I've been doing this for almost 30 years now. So I feel so much happier than when I was 18, 19, 20 years old. I met the Dharma around when I was 20. So much happier. Really, I'm so much happier. My mom thinks I'm a nicer person. She thinks I'm nicer, right? Okay, that's already good. I think my sister thinks I'm nicer too. I mean, the ones that were around me all the time, they can compare it. You know, I had lots of people that I never met again. New people I met that didn't know me at that time. But the thing is, like, and I know I'm a better person. I'm more patient. I'm more patient with myself, more accepting of myself. I'm really happier. I'm really happier. Much happier than then. Happier than 10 years ago. So, the Dharma works for me. Whether there's liberation or enlightenment, actually, I kind of makes sense, and I wish I could be one day. But just the fact that it's already, I feel happier, it was totally worth it. And then if I die and there's no future life, that'd be alright too. Because I feel like my life has become happier. Okay? So that's the good thing. You actually feel more self-content. You're less worried. I'm less worried. I'm less anxious. So if you want to know what means I'm happier, it's the absence of less anxiety. I don't really feel moody. I don't wake up with a bad mood any longer. I remember a bad mood. I don't wake up with a bad mood unless I go to sleep with the kind of mind of anger. Then I wake up not well. But if I try, before I go to sleep, generate the right kind of motivation, I always wake up happy. I do. But that's only the Dharma I used to not. I used to wake up and be so grumpy. Ugh. Even after the first cup of coffee, no, still grumpy. So I think it's the Dharma. Okay? Less anxiety, less anger. I don't get as angry as quickly as I used to. I still get anger, of course, but not as quickly. So you may not believe me, and of course, how can you? I could just lie to you and sell Buddhism to you. I don't need to. What do I get out of it selling it, right? What do I care in the end? I mean, it's not my business. But I'm saying, this is my experience. Now, if you want to find out, try it. And after 5 years, if you do it for 5 years, then we can. Okay, that's it. I hope this answers your question to some degree. And it's a really valid question. Again, what does happiness mean? And you just need to try it out. It's a method. Okay? And you don't have to change your religion to do it. Become a better Jew. Become a better Muslim. Become a better Christian. Become a better theist, agnostic, whatever. Right? Okay. All right. You haven't said anything. Yes?
Yeah. So you mentioned when you meditate sometimes on yourself, sometimes that bad emotions come up. And I was wondering that with this intellectual way of meditating, sometimes emotions, I don't know, like if there's aversion or attachment becomes stronger sometimes.
Yes.
So is it right to maybe just stop even during the meditation and to just go back to the breath or do something that calms your mind and then go back to...
That's a good question.
It could be very tiring to...
Yes. So his question is, when you do this kind of analytical meditation, which is initially intellectual, but you should bring it to a more emotional level, just as a side note. So when then very strong attachment or anger arises, should you let go of the meditation, go back to the breathing? You should let go of the meditation, but don't go back to the breathing. Watch the attachment. Watch the attachment. Go, oh, how interesting. Lucky me. There's a strong thing I can watch in the meditation. Right? This is the time. That's like a scientist who's looking at a petri dish and then finds, ooh, there's something there. Why they're looking? Right? Something to explore. So in that moment, all right, very gently let go of what you're doing. First, you don't let go right away. You try to continue, but if you can't, all right, it's too strong. Okay, I can't just ignore it. All right, let's let it go. Let's let it be for the time being. And now look at the attachment. Interesting. So don't get drawn into it. Don't get drawn into it. Just watch. Don't get drawn into the object. Just watch the attachment. How does it feel? How does it manifest in your mind? And so the problem is sometimes we're fearful of that or judgmental of that. But let it go and just watch it. And actually when you do that, it'll disappear on its own. That's the problem. When you start watching it, usually it kind of goes away. But then allow for it to come back and watch it again and just get to know it. It's just part of the process of getting to know your own afflictive emotions. Anger, even when you're angry, and you have very strong anger, just go, oh, great opportunity to watch my own anger. And look at your own anger. And actually then the anger comes down. Because the object, unless you get angry with your own anger, okay. But then you watch the anger that gets angry with your own anger. But I would suggest, watch it. But if you can't, if you get drawn into it, and you're overwhelmed, go back to the breathing. Okay? So, if you can continue to meditate, and you can just kind of, not suppress it, but let it go, let it go. If you cannot let it go, watch it. If it overwhelms you, go back to the breathing. And if you can't do that, get up and have a cup of tea. Okay? All right, yes.
It's about the nature of the observer.
Ah, yes.